about their relationship.
Bill Clinton
sit
had
well
sex
with a
with
lot
an
of American
intern
people. You're
in
going
the
back to Bill
Oval
Clinton because it's the
Office.
only.
You know, I don't mean to pick on Francesca too much here, but it's very telling that even the liberals who are going on television to defend this ruling have to Google in the breaks to figure out what the crime was. Francesca, you're accusing me of fascism. That's a big charge. All I would point out is that it's not my party that's imprisoning its political opponents right now. So if we're going to throw that accusation about.
I was about to say one of the key tenets of fascism is you imprison your political opponents.
Hey fam, welcome and welcome back to One and Done. Today we're going to be jumping into the part 2 video of the Piers Morgan panel talking about Donald J. Trump and the sham trials and convictions that he has faced. 34 in total. Now if you missed part 1, there's a link up here. You can jump in and watch that before you watch this one, or watch this one and go back to that, whatever you would like. Now, before we dive in, don't forget to hit the like, smash the subscribe, ring the notification bell, and let's roll that tape.
What's happening here is this unusual time, and I understand that you may not like that as an unintended consequence if you're Alvin Bragg, but I think history will show he made Donald Trump president one more time. And that's just the way it is.
You know what?
Thanks,
I completely
Alvin.
agree. I think it's one of the most willful, I'll come to Francesca in response. It seems to be one of the most willfully stupid acts of self-harm I've seen any political party commit. You had Trump right on his knees, done. And you've revived the rotting political corpse of this guy, and you've now got him roaring back to the White House. And the only thing, as Mitt Romney, of all people who hates Trump and represents by absolutely the most moderate part of the Republican Party, when even he says Democrats think they can put out the Trump fire with oxygen, it's political malpractice. He's right, because the only thing that could further guarantee a Trump victory is if they try and put him in jail on July the 11th, which, by the way, I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah, now, Nick Romney, now, if he's coming out supporting Trump and going up against this injustice justice system, you know that it is full of BS.
Yeah, it's remarkable times. We haven't seen polls out since the verdict, and so everybody's waiting to see what happens with the unintended consequence of this in terms of just independent voters. And so here's the thing to realize. If you polled 1,000 independent voters, and they will decide the election, most people agree with that in states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, et cetera. I bet you, and we've had the same on this panel, we're debating it, 99% of them have no idea what this case was about at all, and have no idea what exactly he did, and I'm not sure they care. The fact that more than half of them think it's politically motivated is unsettling.
Yeah.
And as I said earlier, we'll get finished off in the appellate system, but this is a remarkable time in American history, and not that great for the American brand, as you started talking about at the beginning. This is more like a Venezuela kind of Cuba, Banana Republic story. You got the porn star. All this stuff is really not what G7 countries do to their leaders.
I completely agree. This is Francesca. I just don't get. We see you're laughing, but Mitt Romney, for Mitt Romney to come down so squarely on the side of Trump.
I do want to just say, look, so the crimes were falsifying business records. Now, the reason I didn't know that before is because I'm not a lawyer and I'm not the journalist who is anchoring this entire show, who should have told you that it was falsifying business records. Now, on the other
because
point,
those aren't felonies.
I hear you that most Americans don't care about falsifying business records. I agree with Kevin and I agree with Piers. However, I will say this. Most Americans also are very much go on gut. And they don't like that a candidate is now a convicted felon. But moreover, this candidate is someone who, and it is not the crime, however we know, cheated on his pregnant wife with a porn star in a hotel in Lake Tahoe and then bragged about it and then tried to pay her to shut up and also paid another Playboy bunny to also be quiet about their relationship.
Now, Francesca's losing the plot here. Now, Fat Alvin went by his gut. His gut is all over the floor at the moment. Donald Trump's raised over $200 million since this conviction. This sham conviction. And yeah, maybe she's right. People do have a gut, do have a feeling about this situation. And they are showing it with their dollars, with their voices. They know that this justice system is being weaponized towards Donald Trump. Hell, they don't even necessarily like Donald Trump, but they know injustice when they see it. Now, this trial is Mickey Mouse and Fat Alvin is Goofy. this guy is going to be in big trouble. Big trouble. Like I said in one of my other videos, he's earning over $100,000 as DA. How the hell is his net worth $42 million? There is something dodgy going on there, bruh.
Bill Clinton had sex with an intern
people. You're
in
going
the
back to Bill
Oval
Clinton because it's
Office.
the only thing you have.
Well, it's not a bad thing to have.
You're going back. No one's
Unlike
talking
Trump,
about Bill
he was
Clinton.
president at the time.
You know, I don't mean to pick on Francesca too much here, but it's very telling that even the liberals who are going on television to defend this ruling have to Google in the breaks to figure out what the crime was. and even then, I'm sorry to say, misrepresent what the actual supposed crime was. The reason here that this has to take... Well, excuse me one second, Francesca. I'll just finish my point real quickly.
Books. That's the same thing.
Yeah. It's not a felony, not a crime. But anyway, that's a point for another time. The reason why even the great defenders of this conviction can't... yes, to you as well. The reason that they can't articulate this is because it's not really a crime. That's why they had to upend 234 years of precedent for this. And it gets back to a point that you made earlier, Piers, and that you made, Kevin, which is that Alvin Bragg really overplayed his hand. Sure, he overplayed his hand to some degree, but what else were they going to do? Donald Trump was always going to be the Republican nominee in 2024. A lot of people feel that he was gypped in 2020. He's the biggest guy in the party. It was going to happen. And Trump poses a real threat to the liberal establishment. He's not a Mitt Romney type Republican. He has different views from the so-called uniparty on things like trade, on things like immigration, and things like foreign policy and war. Trump posed a major threat. That's why they took such extraordinary measures for the last 8 years to take this guy out. They weren't able to do it politically. They weren't even really able to do it at the ballot box. So what's left? The only thing left to do is to try to throw him in prison so that he can't campaign for the election. I agree, it's backfiring.
This is not a federal case, Michael. You know that. It's not even a federal case. Why do you think that? It's not a DOJ case. It's not a Biden case. It's not a Merrick Garland thing. It's New York state law. So the idea that this is somehow politically motivated is all made up in your head, because what you do on your show every day is you groom your audience for fascism, and you set them up for a complete takeover of the DOJ. This is all about allowing Trump to get away with any crime he wants, as you sort of slighted and sort of, laid out very nonchalantly just a little bit ago. He was impeached twice. Doesn't really matter that he tried to blackmail the leader of Ukraine into digging up non-existent dirt on Joe Biden, but that doesn't matter to you
Joe
or
Biden
your
threatened
followers.
to withhold arms.
You want to make sure.
All right, so this is where people like Francesca, who's going off on a tangent because she's got no argument. She can't argue the case because she doesn't know the case. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to say I'm an expert, but I'm trusting these other gentlemen more than I trust Francesca, particularly because she goes off topic all the time. She's trying to smear Donald Trump. He's not perfect. We already know that. He's a human. Many people, many great leaders have done this sort of thing, okay? Where they've had a side chick. Everyone from Nelson Mandela, you name it, they've done it. Hell, even Nikki Haley was doing the nasty with some clowns on the side while her husband was serving in Afghanistan or Iraq. Unfortunately, it happens all the time. Now, one thing I will say, when we talk about strong women, how good is the former First Lady? Gotta pay her respect and props. She knows Donald Trump's a flawed man, but she also knows just because he may have broken the vows doesn't mean she has to. And that looks super strong. And you can understand why they have a 20-year marriage. She has to take a lot of credit for that. And look at Donald Trump's dynamics in his family. Now, he's been married 3 times, and he's got children to, I believe, 3 sets of wives. And he has fantastic relationship with all of his ex-wives and his children. That says something. That is extremely hard to pull off. Now, look at Sleepy, Creepy, Crooked Joe. Jim Crow Joe, look at him. Now, his son Hunter is facing criminal charges for being on drugs at the time where he applied for a firearm. Now, Joe Biden's a guy that wrote bills to incarcerate minority groups in the thousands. It's going to be very interesting to see if he pardons his son, who's also a crook. Ended up going to Pound Town with his dead brother's wife. Joe Biden doesn't acknowledge his granddaughter that Hunter Biden had to a stripper. Joe Biden is the biggest liar on the planet. He's a crook. He doesn't give a toss about anybody but himself. 50-year politician. What the hell has he done? What has he achieved? He's achieved porous borders, illegal migrants by the millions, human trafficking, fentanyl drug deaths through the roof, and on top of that, inflation through the wazoo. Now people are waking up. They're seeing this. That's why you are seeing everyone going towards Trump. And just to bring it home, what's happened is this justice system has just shown how corrupt they are. And I've got to say, I'm loving it. Lock them up. Do whatever you need to do. You're basically laying out the red carpet for a return to the White House. And I wouldn't blame him one bit. If Obama ends up back in the justice system, if the Clintons end up back in the justice system, oh boy, they have opened up a can of worms.
You want to make sure that when
you're
Trump is
accusing me
reelected,
of
he
fascism.
can get away.
That's a big-
He can get
Francesca,
away
you're
with
accusing me
getting
of
rid of the
fascism. That's a
Department of
big charge.
Education.
All I would point out is that it's not my party that's imprisoning its political opponents right now.
Yeah.
So if we're going to throw that accusation about it.
I was
Who's
about to
in
say
prison?
one of the
Who's
key
in
tenets
prison?
of fascism is you imprison your political opponents. Let me come back to Mark Garagos.
Mama just knocked you
I want to play a
out.
clip from Donald Trump at the weekend. This is talking to Fox and Friends, where he talks about the prospect of maybe going to jail.
The judge could decide to say, hey, house arrest or even jail.
It
How do
could.
you face what that could look
I'm okay with it. I saw one of my lawyers the other day on television saying, oh, no, you don't want to do that to the president. I said, you don't beg for anything. You just, the way it is. I don't know that the public would stand it, you know. I'm not sure the public would stand for it. With a,
if they tried house arrest or...
I think it would be tough for the public to take. You know, at a certain point, there's a breaking point.
Now, Mark, the question I was going to ask you is that a lot of people think the way Trump has been trashing the judge, the court, the process, and everything night after night when he comes out to TV cameras, that under normal circumstances, you could trash talk your way into a prison sentence. Is that remotely possible here?
Well, let me give you the legal analysis and then I'll give you the political. There is no instance I can think of where you're convicted of 34 felonies in state court in America, in any jurisdiction, while you are found in contempt 9 times and a judge threatening to put you in jail, where when you're convicted, the judge doesn't remand you, meaning put you in jail right there pending sentencing. Obviously, that was not going to happen here. Obviously, at least to me politically, this judge is not going to put him in jail on July 11th. I don't even think he's going to give him house arrest. My friend Alan Dershowitz suggested something that I had not thought of. I have been speculating that the judge will give him 30, 60, or 90 days in jail, but stay it pending the appeal. Alan thinks that he will impose a state prison sentence of, say, 2 years and just hang it over his head. And that's somewhat diabolical because if you've got that state prison sentence over his head and he does not win the election in November, there's all kinds of mischief that could happen after that. So I don't think, if I'm a betting man, I don't think he's going to go into jail or into custody on July 11th. If he was somebody other than Trump, he would be in custody right now.
Yeah, look, that's a great point. And this is why everybody's got to get out there and do their votes. Vote for who you want, but I can tell you right now, there's only one person that's going to help this country. And it ain't that crooked Joe Biden, the crooked crime family, and the deep state, and all of those swamp creatures. Now, these swamp creatures are shiting themselves because Donald Trump has come out and said, I'm going to start releasing documents, the Epstein documents. And he said Bill Clinton might be in a little bit of trouble. No shite, Sherlock. He's going to release the JFK documents. And this is why they are doing everything in their power to keep him out of the White House. And I mean everything. But I got to tell you, I'm absolutely loving this because these crooks think they're winning and they're getting a reality check in real time. There's been rallies all around the world, UK, Australia, for Donald Trump. His international popularity has gone up. Now let's just have a look at some of the governmental changes that are happening around the world. Everyone's sick of these left lunatic policies. They're voting in common sense and practical nationalist leaders. And why not? You have local governments, you have federal governments. So of course you need nationalist governments. You need them to look after the national's interests, the nation's interest.
I mean, Kevin, the
yes,
whole idea...
that's a really important point, and everyone needs to remember that.
Yeah, it is an important point. Kevin, just again, I'm across the pond at the moment.
Flop.
But I love America. And this is just this whole idea that we're even discussing the possibility of incarcerating an American president. I made the point the other day that if it was for running an illegal drone program that killed thousands of innocent people, or it was wholesale corruption on a very serious scale at the heart of government, something of that magnitude, then okay, I'd understand taking action against an American president. But the idea that Trump is going through all this and may end up with a suspended sentence or a hung sentence hanging over him, whatever it may be, as Mark just articulated, the idea that an American president, left or right, is facing this potentially happening in 6 weeks' time, in election year, I mean, it sends a shudder down my spine, if I'm honest, because I don't know what it makes America as a country.
Well, it has never happened before in a G7 country, and happened once, I believe, in a G20 country, but I think was acquitted. This isn't really about Trump anymore from the perspective you're talking about. It's about the American brand. It's about the executive. It's about the White House. It's about the American economy. It's about people's perception about investing in it. There's a pretty big discomfort, and I know this from both Democrats and Republicans. There's many outcomes of this sentencing, but I don't think anybody contemplates that he would be jailed. That would not go over well, I think, at all. I don't think that would be. This judge has a huge responsibility on his shoulders because it hasn't been tested by the appellate court. So it would be wise, perhaps, to be very, very lenient. And I would suggest probation, maybe, or something less, so that he can go on with the political process of running, his Republican conference, decide if he's going to be and who his vice president is going to be, and setting up for the election just months away at that point. And as many have said on both sides of the party, let the people decide this situation on November 5th.
Right.
100.
If they make Trump president again, then we're talking about the Oval Office. And we want to be careful not to get in his way as he governs the land. I would have thought bringing the porn star case after the election would have been better. It was really unusual to listen. And I was in London, where you are, talking to sovereign wealth and institutional investors. As you know, I'm trying to buy TikTok, so I'm trying to line up a syndicate. And Stormy Daniels' testimony was embarrassing, talking about condoms and penis size. And what does that have to do with state finance or federal finance law? It has nothing. It was really trashy and not at the level you would want to brand a G7 or G20 country. And I think most people are embarrassed about it, to be honest.
I agree with you.
All right, Judge Merchant, whatever your name is, he should be locked up and throw away that key. That was disgusting, that testimony. What the hell does that have to do? There has to be some sort of decorum, right? Now, Bill Clinton, JFK, even Backdoor Barry, they've all had indiscretions. They've had relationships outside of the norm, outside of the normal husband-wife situation. You know it's a sham, it's a scam, and it's a publicity stunt. Now it's backfired like hell, but it really is disgusting.
I agree with you. And talking of TikTok, Trump joined it, Francesca, at the weekend. He got 3 million followers immediately. But also this happened at the UFC fight. Dana White let him out. And this is just after he'd been convicted of 34 counts of this crime. Take a look at what the crowd reacted was.
Pretty cool for Sean Strickland to have a moment there with Donald Trump after a win.
President Trump, you're the man, bro. It is a damn travesty what they're doing to you. I'll be donating to you, my man. Let's get it done.
Let's go.
I mean, that followed the entrance. Sorry, Mark?
By the way, Piers, if I have spent the last 2 days having people talk to me at a conference I'm at, telling me that one of the phenomenons on TikTok, as Kevin invoked it, is people saying, I'm voting for the felon, I'm voting for the felon.
Yeah.
I'm telling you this, you want a poll? I'll give you a poll. Take a look at what's happening there at the UFC fight and take a look at what's happening on TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, we're watching this is when he came in. I mean, the place went completely nuts. And the trouble is, Francesca, I spend a lot of time in New York and LA. I have a place in LA and spend a lot of time working in New York. But I also do a lot of crime documentaries, ironically, which take me down to rural Florida, rural Texas, Alabama, places like that. And let me tell you, none of them agree with you. They all agree with that crowd at the UFC. And if I was a Democrat, I'd be quite unnerved that you've thrown the kitchen sink at this guy. And this is how a lot of the public are reacting.
The deep state has done the George Foreman on Muhammad Ali, and Trump is just rope-a-doping them, and he is going to win. And the people are going to go nuts. They're going to go crazy. You just watch everything boom. Once Donald Trump gets into that White House, stock market's going to boom. Confidence in the American economy is going to boom. He's going to release the energy. He's going to make it more affordable for houses and homes, for families, for small business. Oh, damn, this is exciting. Lock him up. Let's go. Everyone's voting for the felon.
No, I mean, it makes sense that he'd be cheered at UFC. I mean, you know, it's a sport full of actors, and we have this guy who's been pretending to be a serious politician for years now. Look, the important thing about that interview that he gave to Fox News.
You're not besmirching
the important
UFC.
Thing about the Fox News.
Hang on. Fact check. You'll think you're WWE, the actors. The UFC, they're real fighters.
Yes. I'm sorry. I don't have. Cool.
You haven't got a clue.
I'm glad.
That's
Look,
the problem.
There's a big difference. One is acting. One is hardcore elite fighting. They're very different things.
I don't have video feed, but I bet it's dope, and I stand corrected, Piers. But I will say this. With the interview that he gave on Fox and Friends, I do think it matters, because what he said was the American people aren't going to stand for this. And in some ways, he's saying, you know, he's warning Judge Merchan, and I sort of agreed that I don't think Judge Merchan, even though all y'all think that it's some sort of political hit job, they're not going to put him in jail. Sadly for me, I hope they give him some sort of like community service soup kitchen situation. I'd love to see that, whatever is on his head, in a hairnet. That'd be incredible. Or just like make him work one day in his life, just a single day, maybe on minimum wage. I'd like to see what you do at like a Home Depot, you know? Or just like do a landscaping job from one of the many immigrants that you want to deport from this country. Anything. That would be more of a punishment than actually sitting in a jail cell. But what he was really saying is, hey, American people, basically stand up for me. In effect, do another January 6th for me. And we all saw what happened. No matter what you think of that day, which I'll remind you, so many Republicans distanced themselves from what happened that day. But the other thing that happened is all these folks who loved Trump, who followed him, who believed in him, were arrested and then charged, rightfully so, for trespassing, for rioting, for threatening the lives of Congress people. And Trump has faced absolutely no music over that. And of course, if Judge Eileen Cannon gets her way, he might never actually face the music until after the election.
He's been charged with very serious crimes in relation to that. That won't happen before the election. Instead, the Democrats collectively, through political reasons and legal reasons and so on, came up with the mad idea of going first with the Stormy case. And that has been a total disaster because no one takes it seriously. Michael Knowles, final point to you. Trump said, my revenge will be success. These are bad people. And he said, it's going to be success will be the best revenge. Do you think that's how this plays out?
It's the only way that it can play out because, as I think most of us on the panel have accepted, there is not going to be some fair legal conclusion to all of this. The only way that this plays out is if the political system in America is not wholly corrupt. It's only substantially corrupt. Biden smirks when he jokes about jailing his political opponents, but it's not wholly corrupt, and the American people can bring enough civil pressure to bear to push this guy back into the Oval Office. That is going to be the only way that this ends.
If he doesn't win the election, Michael will absolutely respect the results of
Well, you know what he'll say,
win,
Francesca?
correct?
And this time with good reason. He'll say, hey, for 2 months of the election year, when I should have been campaigning, I was being put through a criminal court trial over having sex with a porn star 20 years ago. And you know what? A lot more people will have empathy with him this time than when he falsely claimed he had the 2020 election stolen from him without any evidence. So unfortunately,
Absolutely. I mean, who among us
again,
hasn't...
the Democrat machine to shut Trump down has played right into his hand.
Now that wraps it up, folks, for part 2. Now you can see why they have Francesca on this debate show, because she brings a lot of comedic value. You can't take anything she says serious. She's hilarious. She's very funny. Now, she's probably not trying to be funny, but what she's saying is a joke. The only thing missing is the clown suit. Now, what it does display is the obvious emotional TDS that they have on the left. They don't think logically. They can't see past their noses. That's why we have troubles at the border. That's why inflation's through the roof. That's why crime's up, because they are making policies on their feelings rather than the facts. The facts that are right in front of their eyes, they can't see it. Now, I've been doing this for around about 6 months, and it's very interesting to see the comments in the comment section. I love having a look through them, but the TDS ones are extremely hilarious. I find them really funny because they will call people that want to make America great again Nazis, fascists, and all sorts of other things. Derogatory terms. And it's like sticks and stones. Eventually, after a while, names will never hurt you. But I can't wait to see your comments in the comments section. Let us know what you think. Let me know what you think. What sort of impact is these justice system, these sham trials, what sort of impact is that having on your independents, the independent voters, people that were sitting on the fence? And what I've sort of noticed is that possibly Biden voters, they don't want to vote for Donald Trump, but they're going to sit it out because they don't want to vote for him either. Now that's going to be a problem for the Dems. Alarm bells should be ringing. Now, I've got a funny feeling there's another option that Joe Biden can do, right? So his son is facing felony charges. He could be in hot water over this. Now, no doubt when he's convicted, if he's convicted, Joe Biden will pardon him. Now, a smart move would be to pardon Donald Trump at the same time. That would at least win some popularity back. Some. Now, the leftists will go, oh, he's a saint. This guy's a saint. They get sold lies easily. They'll be on that train. They'll be on that Biden train quicker than, you can even imagine. But anyone that thinks with common sense and logic, they will see past the BS. Now, I think it will win some of his left lunatic supporters. I don't think it'll move the needle on particularly people in the Republican movement. Independents, I'm not sure. Maybe they'll feel sorry for the old guy. But when you see his decline, I can't even imagine him being around in November. His decline is so rapid. I'm talking about Biden, obviously, here. Weekend at Bernie's. Sleepy Creepy Joe, leader of the Biden crime family. But anyway, I'm starting to waffle. That's it from me, folks. Don't forget to hit the like, smash the subscribe, ring the notification bell. If you enjoy this content, thanks so much for joining me again, and I'll catch you in the next video.